the call. Let me remove this. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope you've got your morning coffee with you or your orange juice or whatever you need. Yesterday, we spoke about shame, and today we're going to talk about shame's cousin, which is referred to as guilt. Guilt, guilt, guilt. Why do we feel guilt? Well, let's bring Nav in the call and we'll talk about guilt, and hopefully by the end of this we know how to substitute the feelings of guilt. Here we go. Let me add Nav. Look at me fighting with the duvet. Hey, Nav.
It's a blanket. I'm sorry, I couldn't find a duvet for the office.
You've got a blanket. I bet that's what you do. You use that for your clients when they come to visit you.
Right, it does live in the office, yes. So for someone if they need it, or yeah, it's lying on my client chair. Normally that's it. Yes.
It's a bit restrictive trying to talk in a duvet, but I thought it would be a good sense for this because we were talking about shame yesterday, and it's been said that guilt is shame's cousin, which makes sense. So for me, I want to talk a little bit about what guilt, how I see guilt, and then for you to actually help us with this. So I've made some notes. So when I think about guilt, I think about it's a feeling that you have about something that you did, and that guilt affects you emotionally. And I don't really suffer with much guilt nowadays because I recognize how the feeling feels. So I substitute it with, right, okay, how do I take action and how do I use that to actually change the state of how I feel? So it's a change of state. And before we bring you in, Nav, I was going to say, so my business is Mind Workout. So I talk about how you can use your physical fitness and you can transfer that into using it for your mental fitness. And changing state is really important in the world of performing, and being able to change your whole physiology by smiling and having energy. And I know I've got loads of energy, and that's because I create the energy. I don't wake up. Well, actually, maybe sometimes I do wake up a bit energized, but that's because I spent years creating that energy in myself. And when you change your physiology, you change your state. So I'm a big believer in, if I feel like I'm holding on to my own ego of guilt, like I shouldn't have done that, I'm a bad person, I shouldn't have done this, then that doesn't feel good to me. So what I do is I normally take that and I twist it and go, right, how do I say sorry to the person that I might have done something wrong to? How do I how do I make amends? How do I change what I've done? And that gives me back my power, and it means that I'm not letting my power go out. But a lot of people I've been speaking to, I spoke to a friend yesterday, she says, I'm having a duvet day, and it feels bad. And I thought, why do we feel bad when we have a duvet day? What has society told us? So tell us a little bit about why we feel guilt. And I know guilt happens in a lot of mums, like not spending enough time with your children. We'll talk about that. But could you just break it down to us from a therapist's point of view? Why do we have guilt? And how do we get rid of guilt? And before you do that, let me close my door because my little one was just in then.
Sure.
I'm back. Okay, so tell us about guilt.
Tracy, thank you for sharing, how you convert your guilt or your feelings into this inertia, the energy. I think that's a wonderful example of how one can work with it, because I think one key thing before we sort of get into anything, is that no feeling is random. No feeling is meant to be, there is no negative sort of state as such. Feelings are just what they are. They're emotions. That's it. They exist. It is what it is. Guilt by itself also is there for a reason. It's not artificial intelligence that's coming to pumped into your head that I must think, I must feel a certain way. It's saying something. It's bringing to light something that's not working for me, something that I feel difficult about, or something that I feel sad about. It's highlighting something. I think a lot of times, as we spoke yesterday, guilt sort of pinpoints to potentially an event, where I feel I could have done something or I did something wrong. It can be traced back to a particular event. But there's also other sort of forms of guilt. There's that bit of, let's say, there's somebody who feels overtly irresponsible for their parents. The parents are, say, in the hospital somewhere, and they can't go see them every day. They sit and struggle with the fact, well, I must go there, must go there. But they've got children, they've got other responsibilities. So you end up feeling guilty for not playing your part as a child, as you'd imagine you would to your parent. So guilt can present itself in so many different ways.
Well, I suppose as well what you said with the guilt with the parent, the adult feeling guilt towards the parents. I do see a lot of guilt from parents to children. It's like, if you do that, it's going to make mummy sad. Or, oh, I'm so upset about that. Oh, you're breaking my heart. That kind of stuff is guilt. Is it? Yeah.
It is inducing shame and guilt in the child, or guilt maybe. Because what they're saying is, oh, you must do this to make mummy happy. It becomes very conditional. I think it's just lazy parenting. It's just, I guess, when you're busy doing so many things, you can't really be involved 100% in every interaction with your child. So sometimes we're like, oh, well, mummy's going to get upset. So the child obviously doesn't want to upset mummy, and we'll say, oh, okay, I'll keep mummy happy. But it's lazy. I think it's just a lazy way of interaction. It's not good or bad. It's just that while you're doing 100 other things, you don't want to really be.
When you say that, yeah, I do think, and do you know what I think it is as well? It's about being conscious. When we talk about the parenting, it's about being a conscious parent. Like just now, literally, I filmed it. My youngest son was like, Mummy, basically I said to the boys, it's a duvet day today. They both cheered, yay, duvet day. One of them jumped out of his bed and jumped into my bed and was like, duvet day. The other one runs downstairs with his iPad, and I said, are you going to have a duvet day? He goes, I've got too much energy for a duvet day. I want to go and jump on my trampoline. So I said, okay, then go for it. You can do what you want. You've got no lessons today until later. So he goes outside on his trampoline. I'm then getting their breakfast, knowing that I'm coming on live with you. And then I think, as a conscious parent, he really wanted me to come and watch him jump, but I knew I didn't have the time. I'm online with you. So I thought, okay, what can I do in the 6 minutes I've got until we go live? So I went to the first son and threw straws at him so he could catch them, because he likes objects flying through the air, and he liked that. So we had 1 minute of engaged fun. Then I quickly poured the fruit and fibre in a bowl with some milk and took it into my other half's office, which I never do. I thought that would be nice to surprise him with breakfast. I'm talking about cereal. And then I thought, there was 4 minutes left. It was at 10:56. Have I got time to run outside to see Cube on the trampoline? Oh, shall I do it? I thought, do you know what? I run outside and he's like, Mummy, you came. And I'm like, yes, Cuba, I'm here. Show me what you're doing. He goes, I want to show you this trick. I said, okay, I've got 1 minute. 1 minute, because then I'm going live. And he was like, you're going live, are you? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, but can't they wait? I said, no, Cuba, there's 100,000 people watching me live. He goes, really? Obviously there isn't at the moment, but I said, I need to go out. And he goes, okay. So I watch him do his little trick and I'll show you it. Wicked. This somersault triple thing. I clap for him for 30 seconds. I run back in, and I fulfilled my role because I've been really conscious in those 4 to 6 minutes that I have. So I think it's conscious parenting and understanding that when you say, oh no, if I stay here and watch you, all the people online are going to be feeling sad because I'm not there. Or, Cuba, mummy has responsibilities. I really want to do what I say I'm going to do, but I also want to be here for you. Show me what you got. You got 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds, I was focused on him. So I think, like you said, lazy parenting. I think sometimes it's being unconscious about the power of what you do. And you don't need to spend hours and hours and hours with them distressed. You can spend like 5 minutes of quality, focused eye contact. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think, but let's just flip this on its head. Now, in that, I think you said something wonderful in the end. Mummy, you dressed yourself as mummy, which is quite interesting. And you said something about the role that, there was something about the roles we have. And I think that's what the guilt is. Guilt is also about the roles that we carry all along us. I'm guilty. I must do this. My role as a son, my role as a husband, my role as I understand a part of it is responsibility, which is different from, guilt-inducing. Responsibility is clear. It can feel heavy. There's accountability that goes with it. And there's guilt. Guilt somewhere is is a little more than the sense of responsibility. It's the shoulds, it's where the should comes in, where it becomes, rather than suggestive, could, the word could, which is sort of slightly more gentler, it's like should, I should do it. And it's about sort of becoming overtly, caught up in those roles. The question is, and that's all fine, if you allow yourself to take time for yourself as well in those 6 minutes, where you can sit for a minute and say, maybe I need to regroup, maybe I need that 1 minute for myself. I think that's where it becomes a bit of a balance. So I think overall, most of when we talk about mental health, or we talk about health, or we are trying to sort of get to a relative state of balance. I think, and that's pretty much what, I guess greatest world's troubles are around, also about equality, balance, fairness, justice.
And I hear that, and I hear balance a lot. And I've had this conversation with my mother. I totally disagree with balance. I'm like, that's a lot of rubbish. I don't think there's any that you can get a balance. I think if you want to achieve something that you've never achieved before, like if you say, you're right, I'm tidying the house from top to bottom, there isn't going to be any balance. You just go for it, you do it, and then once it's done, you're like, okay. Like, I think I hear the word work-life balance all the time, and I'm starting to look at it a bit differently, in the sense that if you're training for a marathon, you're gonna work your butt off hard, relentless. When the marathon's finished, the balance is recovery.
Yes,
I think people try to get it at the same time.
That's a very important part. But when you look at balance, you're not looking at just one particular event. Now, marathon is not my life. It's a goal. It's what I wanted to do. So for that, you need that single-minded determination. It's almost like the horse blinders. That is a commitment to the goal. So in that, of course, like say I'm a student say for now, I've committed to something. So in that, it'll make sense that I sort of do that wholeheartedly. Now, in that, there are other roles I'll play as well. I'm not just a student. I'm also a student. I'm not just a marathon runner. I'm also running a marathon. So I think it's about the balance is around the broader spectrum rather than. Are you there? Hello.
Hello.
Are you there? I lost you for a second.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I think it's about looking at the bigger picture. So in that, balance makes sense. But of course, if I'm committed to something, let's say I'm sitting with the client at that moment as a therapist, somewhere the word balance probably wouldn't come in. I think the balance would probably be me being grounded, sitting in the service of the other, helping them connect with whatever their truth might be. So yes, you're right. If you, it's about a macro view as opposed to just a micro view. And I think it's important because they both exist. It's about the focus, but there's also the peripheral vision, And I think the idea is when we're focused, the peripheral vision's not there. Balance for me is about sort of having the focus, but also being connected with the peripheral as well. So the broader field rather than just.
Do you think that comes with confidence? When people sorry, with the doors opened again, they keep coming in. Do you think that comes with confidence?
Awareness. Yeah. I think.
Awareness.
Yeah, I look at confidence as the cherry on the cake, right? To get to that state of confidence, we're talking about self-esteem. Now, to get to that, there are other things you need to do. You need to work on the roots. You need to make sure you have the ingredients for the cake. Then you've got to sort of learn how to mix them. Get the right temperature. That's what life is. Confidence is the outcome of certain actions, certain repetitions. I become a confident speaker if I speak a lot. I become a confident driver by driving a lot. So it's practice, it's repetition, it's inputs that sort of also. But it's also the sense of self. For me, my sense of self would be based on, let's say, feedback from the outside world, my own belief in myself, my comfort in my skin. There's so many factors that sort of lead into it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if we come back to guilt,
yes.
During this time in lockdown, there's going to be so much guilt throwing, I imagine, and a lot of inward guilt and outward guilt. Like, I felt guilty the other day because I rang my sister who looks after my dad. My dad's 86 and she's been locked in her house for 8 weeks now, because she was a week before we were told to. So she's been in her house for 8 weeks and hasn't left like at all. And I rang her and said, oh, today I think I might go to the range. She's like, why? I go, oh, I'm getting bored of Sainsbury's. I think I could go to the range and do a bit of food shopping there and have a little mince around, see if there's anything nice I can get for the house. And she was like, and then she said, and then she was like, well, you're getting to go out. And then I had a sense of guilt, feeling like, oh yeah, I'm complaining because I'm bored of Sainsbury's. At least I get to go out. She's there. She can't leave the house because of my dad. And I'm, so those kind of moments of guilt, I haven't rang them enough. I haven't contacted enough people. All those feelings of guilt. How can people take control of that guilt feeling? Because I know what I do for it. I attack it. When I get the feeling, I attack it straight away, make amends, address the guilt, get it out of my mind. But what can other people do to even recognize that it is a sense of guilt that they're feeling?
I think the first part is to sort of actually it is in the awareness of the feeling. And I think the questions to ask, I recommend this to a lot of people, is not why questions, because a why-based question is very broad. It's it's as big as the universe. The answers will change frequently. But if I ask what questions, what's going on for me? What am I feeling? What's happening here? So I need to be in an aware state to know that I need to ask myself the right question as well. What's happening? What's this feeling? What's it trying to say? I feel guilty. I feel I should be doing something. It's there. So there's that sort of compulsion, which is, it's the guilt can become a form of self-attack. It becomes a form of self-criticism. It's like the inner critic sort of saying, I should be doing something. There's almost a sort of predefined, a role that I need to play, predefined thing that I need to do. So guilt by its very nature, but don't get me wrong, guilt by its very nature also creates momentum. It creates inertia, it creates action. If I feel guilty about being a horrible guy to someone, next time it'll create the inertia, it'll get me up from my backside and say, well, actually, I need to do something. I need to be kind. I need to make amends, as you said. I need to change something about it. So guilt also has a certain place. But I think one of the key things is about learning. We are human beings. We are not human doings. So everything, so learning to be is also an art form. It's about sort of sitting down and stopping and saying, well, actually, I'll just sit. I'll just breathe for a little bit. And that's interestingly, that's what is happening in the lockdown. People are actually being forced to sit, to stop, to consider. Their whole series is around that. Even though it's inertia and it's action and it's active and it's energy filled, but a lot of it is also about stopping, considering, thinking. What's actually happening? And a lot of, I think the split has become even more clear now, because a lot of people actually realizing that, but do I actually need to be that active? I can still be active, but not be, not having to be not be moving too much, not be going from point A to B to C to D to E to F. I could actually be covering all those places, being in one place. And that's what home working has brought to us, and some feel guilty. I mean, I feel great guilt for being, I do some work for the NHS at the Royal Free Hospital in London on Tuesdays, and I could have been the frontline worker, and I chose not to. So I was left with this guilt of, I'm a coward, I should be not there. I shamed myself, and I was like, you know what? I don't have to be the frontline. Maybe I can be the one, that supports at the behind the scenes. Maybe I can sort of first, my responsibility also lies towards my family. Not everybody is meant to be a soldier. So I allowed myself the feelings of guilt. I sat with it. I allowed myself empathy. That it's okay. I understand that, there is that whole thing of I'd love to be the recognized person, be the brave one that's out there. But the truth was I did not have the courage to be there. So I had to allow myself my fears. I had to allow myself my judgments and sit with that vulnerability of saying, well, actually, yeah, it'd be lovely if I'd go there and it'd be wonderful and I'd feel like a hero. But the fact is, I don't have what it takes to be a hero right now. So I had to allow myself not being there. That is working with the guilt. It's allowing ourselves our shadows, our darkness, things that are not so bright.
I absolutely love that. And I think that's so, just you explaining that, all I see is that when that comes, I think a lot of the time it's ego. We have this ego that we that we see ourselves as. But when you can do what you've done, which is obviously through your training and being able to go, I recognize it's my ego telling me that I should, and how I'd want to be, but actually that's not who I'm meant to be. So I have to tell that ego to shut up and actually allow that to simmer and say, right, where can I be of value? And like you said, all the families and behind the scenes, they're going to need people to speak to. They're going to need therapy. They're going to need support.
Yeah.
So, but that takes courage. And I think some people, like I spoke to this lady who was saying, I feel so stressed out because I have so much time and I'm looking around the house at the cupboards that need to be cleaned out, all the clothes that need to be sent to refuge, all the things I need to do, the skirting boards, this. And she goes, and I just feel overwhelmed. I said, don't bother doing it. And she was like, what? I said, I only do what I want to do when I want to do it because I know that I don't want to feel bad. And also it takes away the guilt. If I've got a cupboard that needs to be cleaned and wiped out and I don't want to do it, and then that leads to me feeling bad because I'm lazy. But I switch it. I go, I'm not lazy. I value my time. Is that a good use of my time cleaning that cupboard? Hell no, I'm not doing it. Where other people will be like, oh, I feel so guilty. I've had all this time at home and I've not done the housework. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. That's what
I couldn't agree more, because I think the key thing is self-compassion, self-care. I think a lot of times we go into the spectrum of selfishness. Which is I'm too full of myself, or it's selfless. It's too little of me. But the word is somewhere in between, which is self-care, self-compassion, self-love. Just allowing the self to heal, to stop, to just to be. I think there's this. I don't know if there's a book, but somebody mentioned this about sort of the art of doing nothing. It's about
not giving a.
Yeah. Yes. So I think for me, and one of my friends way back said it, when I was living in India, and he did nothing. And then he sat at home, made his money, sit on his chair, and listen to his music and everything. And I'd go to him and I'd be running my restaurants and setting up my rehab and studying and distributing milk and just all over the place. And he's like, you're doing what you're doing. He says, who are you doing it for? I said, well, money and name. And he says, really? He says, what's happening? And it's quite interesting. 2013, I signed out of my restaurant. Pretty much 6 months of having done that, nobody remembered me as a restaurateur. The rehab I'd set up in India, first year, everybody was like, oh, we miss you. You were so wonderful. You're such a good therapist, blah, blah, blah. And then people filled that space. Nobody remembers me there. I'm not even in the social media content of theirs. Way back in 2008, I feature somewhere. I was actually looking online to find the video I'd done there in 2009 or so, which was very good. And it went on mainstream TV. I couldn't find it. It's there. It's not there. So that is about my own, grandiose sort of belief in myself. And still there is this need and desire to be seen and recognized. I guess a part of this video for me is about, will I get out there when people start seeing I'm okay? Will I get some clients from this? So there is that bit that comes from it. But there's also this other part, which is, it's okay, because when the phones don't ring, when I put the Google ads out, I have to connect with my vulnerability. I have to connect with my shame. I have to connect with the guilt of could I have done more? Should I have answered that call? All that. And that's what is the important part. So I guess for me, my journey is working through my guilt and shame all the time whenever I'm sitting. And it's so entrenched in of what I should do, what should be happening, about overtly being there for other people, not having my boundaries. I end up abusing myself and disregarding my own care. So that's what I feel about guilt. I don't know if that answers the question, but
I think that you answered it really well and gave an insight into who you are and what you're about and how it affects everybody. And Tony Robbins, he says that saying I should, eventually you should all over yourself, and that's never going to help you. And I always think of shoulding all over yourself and how, like you said, could. I've recently started this on a Sunday, a Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life group with some coaches and other people, and it's wonderful. And the first exercise is to write a list down of all the things you think you should do. I should be more busy. I should be a better mum. And you write all the list down. And then after, someone in the group says, so why haven't you? And then you then have to change it and say why. And then you write down, you get rid of should, and you put I could if I would if I if I wanted to. I could if I wanted to. And I think that gives you the power. I think everything I talk about with my book, Power Lift Your Career, and Mind Workout and Empowering People, I think it's about energy. The more energy and love and self-love you have for yourself, the more you believe in yourself enough to say, I'm not going to feel guilty about that. You know, if I once did something that, and this is a good example. It's getting on to 25 minutes now, but I'll just say this because it's really important, I think. So I went somewhere to drop off a star, and the person there I was talking to, and I assumed that the person was a man, but I was still just saying, and I said, you know, oh, thank you so much. I hope, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, let me take your email address. But then when they gave me their email address, they gave me a woman's name. And I was like, oh, is that your name? And they were like, yes. And I was like, oh, gosh, I'm so grateful that I didn't say he because you're a she, but I didn't know. And then I got in the car and I felt a sense of like relief. But I thought, would I feel guilty if I would have addressed the person as a he when they're a she? And I think some people would feel extreme guilt, but I said to myself, no, because I didn't know. And I didn't do it in a malicious, in a mean way. I just didn't know. So I would just immediately apologize. And I think when you've got the level of confidence that I have, I'd say sorry a lot. I literally apologize, make amends. I forgive myself. I forgive other people very quickly. So I actually spend more time saying sorry about things I've done than ever before, because I don't want guilt. I don't think guilt is productive at all.
And in a way, the more sorries you're saying, it means you're actually doing more things anyway, more different things anyway. Because the very fact that you're engaging in life, you know, and you're getting it wrong, and you're saying, well, actually, I got this wrong, you're actually not letting that guilt come into play. I think, you know, you said something about energy, and I don't know if I read it somewhere or, you know, coined this up, so I'll just throw it out there. Emotion is, I look at it as energy in motion, you know, and which is about, you know, it's about momentum, but it's also about connection. It's also about sort of looking at what that feeling is. And guilt by its very nature then also is about a dysfunctional or a not very healthy form of offering empathy to ourselves. It's a very reflective process. So if we learn to reflect without it becoming a sense of ourselves, I can say, let's say, you know, I think and consider, if I said something, you know, as a therapist, we are trained to be reflective, you know, reflect back, to also reflect on our work while we're sitting with somebody else. What's this going to have an impact on? That is the state of awareness. And if you can also work through it, life will become lesser guilty. So yeah, that's pretty much.
I love it. So what we're going to leave people with for today, what was the thing you said? What is making me feel guilty? What do you think?
What's going on for me? What's happening? What am I feeling? What's the compulsion behind it? What questions? A lot of what questions. What is very specific? The answers would be true to you. You know, it won't be based on other people's assumptions. Whys would be slightly broader. So yeah, what questions? What's happening for me? And in the end, when you're in doubt, stop, get a cup of coffee, get your duvet on for a second, and just breathe. I think that's one of the ways to also say self-care, self-compassion, lesser guilt.
Love
Again,
it.
that's yeah.
Thank you so much for another great session. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I have learned so much from you in these last 3 days. I'm so excited. And today's a wobbly Wednesday. So anyone listening, today I'm going to be speaking to Dominic Felix about being wobbly. So anyone tuning in, keep in touch with us every day, 11 o'clock. Nav will be joining me, and we will be talking about all things that make you go wobbly. Speak to you soon, everyone.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.